Good morning to all the viewers. I know you've been waiting for this live stream, and I'm very happy at Nephlearn to be engaging all of you. And a big thank you to all the subscribers who are there, who believe in what we are doing and who support us. This is a 4-part series of lectures on Basics of CRRT. We've already finished one live stream on the dialyzer membranes, which could be used in CRRT. And today's lecture is on CVVH, CVVHD, CVVHDF, and the modalities of CRRT, renal replacement therapy, and very briefly about the connection and disconnection process. For more detailed lectures, do visit our course on the Nephlearn app, which you can download from the Google Play Store or even the Apple Play Store. And with this, we will start with our lecture for today. If you at any point of time have any questions, please do type in the chat box. You can also send us directly from our website, nephlearn.in. And I wish you a very happy Sunday morning. Let's dive into this lecture on modalities of CRRT.
I hope you're enjoying the lessons on CRRT that you have seen so far. And today we are going to learn a little bit more in detail about the various modalities of CRRT, namely CVVH, CVVHD and CVVHDF. So let's begin and unravel the mysteries that surround these names. Although many of you already know this, let's just revise this for our memories. So the forms of renal replace therapy begin with intermittent hemodialysis, or IHD as it's commonly known, in which there is alternate day dialysis or daily dialysis for a fixed period of time from 3 to 4 hours. The second modality is the CRRT, or the continuous renal replacement therapy, which continues over a period of 24 hours, 48 hours and so on. And this requires special machines, special filters and special tubings also. In CRRT we have different modalities again, which are CVVH, CVVHD, CVVHDF and SCUF. And the third variety is the hybrid variety, which is a mix of the intermittent hemodialysis and the continuous renal replacement therapy. And in this we have a modality which is called as SLED, or slow low efficiency daily dialysis. So let's go further.
In this slide, we can see a comparison between the different modes of renal replacement therapy, intermittent hemodialysis, CRRT and SLED. In intermittent hemodialysis, solute removal occurs by diffusion and is very rapid. Whereas in CRRT, there is a continuous removal of ultrafiltration, including small and middle molecules, by diffusion, convection or both. And in SLED, there is a slow or sustained efficiency dialysis of small to middle molecules by diffusion. Intermittent hemodialysis is done in 3 to 4 hours duration, CRRT over 24 hours per day, and SLED varies from 6 to 12 hours. The dialysate flow rate in intermittent hemodialysis is approximately 500 ml per minute. In CRRT, it is 17 to 34 ml per minute, which translates into nearly 5 to 7 liters per day. And in SLED, it is less, that is 300 ml per minute. The blood flow rate is approximately 200 ml per minute. In CRRT, however, patients are usually hemodynamically unstable and the blood flow rate should be kept less than 200 ml per minute. The hemodynamic stability achieved with intermittent hemodialysis is, however, poor, and hypotension is a very common complication. In CRRT, the stability is good, and in SLED, it is fair. The cost efficiency is very high in CRRT and SLED, And so patients with very acute or critical illnesses may be treated first with uh, intermittent hemodialysis if the patients are not affording. In intermittent hemodialysis, we require only unfractionated heparin, and sometimes even that may not be needed. But in CRRT, anticoagulation plays a very important role. Which are the conditions that are treated with intermittent hemodialysis then? Mainly ambulatory chronic renal failure patients who require regular dialysis lifelong, or patients with hyperkalemia or pulmonary edema, and so on. In CRRT, we usually include patients who are unstable, who are non-ambulatory and very critically ill patients, or have very severe hyperkalemia. And SLED is usually performed in patients who are critically ill. Although intermittent hemodialysis is fast, cost-effective, produces pretty efficient removal of solutes, and is used in life-threatening conditions. However, CRRT has its own place in the treatment of critically ill patients with AKI, and let us see how this is more beneficial in some cases. In CRRT, there is a very gradual removal of solutes and fluids. And although large volumes of fluid and solutes are shifted, patients with hemodynamic instability fare well with CRRT. In CRRT, there is also gradual removal of urea, and acid-base balances are better stabilized. The hybrid varieties like SLED and prolonged intermittent renal replacement therapy also offer the advantage of CRRT in terms of hemodynamic instability and intermittent hemodialysis in terms of cost efficiency. Once again, let's remember the three types of CRRT and dive into these. The first is CVVH, that is the continuous veno-venous hemofiltration. The second is the continuous veno-venous hemodialysis. And the third is the continuous veno-venous hemodiafiltration. So what does continuous veno-venous hemofiltration mean? Well, first of all, let's trace the pathway and check out. So blood is removed from the patient through any vascular access, passed through the filter and returned to the patient. In CVVH, we are concerned with replacement fluids, that is either pre-filter or they are given post-filter. And there is an effluent which is removed from the body of the patient. The main mechanism by which CVVH operates is convection. And convection is using high flux membranes. High flux membranes means those which have a relatively larger membrane pore size, and therefore even larger molecules can be removed. Let us look at this example of the torrential rainfalls that happen in Mumbai. Yes, Mumbai sometimes has such heavy rainfall that the roads are all flooded. You can see this large car which is somehow going across the water. But in certain times, the flood may be so much that it may carry the large cars or vehicles like it. And this is what really convection is. The rainwater can be considered as the solvent, which causes a solvent drag. And then the large molecules, that is the car or other vehicles, are dragged along with this solvent in the direction that they don't want to go. So even large molecules which would not have otherwise crossed to the semi-permeable membrane do cross because of this solvent drag. And this is what convection is. I hope this small example has helped you to understand this concept very well.
Let us understand why replacement fluids are required in such large quantities in CVVH. Well, in CVVH, we usually set very high ultrafiltration rates to remove more fluids from the body of the patient. And therefore, to maintain the euvolumic status of the patient, who may be already hemodynamically unstable, we require very large amounts of replacement fluids.
There are two terminologies which are used in conjunction with this replacement fluid. So the fluid may be replaced either pre-filter, that is before the filter that we have used for the patient, and this is known as pre-dilution. And you can see here the blood of the patient which is returned in this direction, the substitution fluid which is added before the filter, and then the dialysate which comes out. So this is pre-dilution.
So what is post-dilution or post-filter then? This is when the replacement fluids are added after the filter position. So here you can see blood from the patient is returned in this manner, but the substitution fluid or the replacement fluid is added after the filter has been attached. We must remember that the very high ultrafiltration rates which are set during CRRT can result in hemoconcentration of the blood. And pre-dilution or pre-filter replacement fluids help in diluting the blood. Pre-dilution helps in the following ways. First of all, it reduces hemoconcentration, that is the red cell and protein concentration of blood. What this results in is reduced formation of secondary membrane and reduced formation of polarization phenomenon. As a result, there is enhanced mass transfer. Secondly, it reduces clotting risk. This happens because pre-dilution results in a higher membrane shear force and therefore less of solute and membrane interactions, and therefore the risk of clotting is reduced. And thirdly, for some compounds there is higher mass transfer efficiency because there is a concentration gradient formed and reduces the quantity of that product in the blood cells. However, the drawback of pre-dilution is its relatively low efficiency. So, to remove the same amount of solute clearance, there is much higher levels of replacement fluid required. So, in post-dilution, the advantages are as follows. First of all, the clearance of the solute is directly related to the ultrafiltration rate. Also, the clearance is higher in CVV-HDF. Thirdly, a much smaller volume of replacement fluid is required to remove or clearance of solutes. And lastly, the filter lifespan can be enhanced or remain better if there is adequate anticoagulation in the post-dilution method. Let us now take a look at CVV-HD, that is continuous veno-venous hemodialysis. In this again, blood is removed from the patient through a vascular access, passed through the filter and returned to the patient. A dialysate is perfused before the filter in the direction which is counter current to the blood flow. And then there is an effluent which consists of the spent dialysate as well as the ultrafiltration which was necessary to achieve a negative fluid balance in the patient. The mechanism of solute removal in CVV-HD is simple diffusion. And let us take a look at what this means. Ah, chai. That's what many of us in India say all the time. It's tea time, folks. Well, this is a very simple example of diffusion. The tea bag contains solute which is contained in a semi-permeable membrane, and this then diffuses through the semi-permeable membrane into the solvent around it. But please note that only the small molecules can pass through this method, and this is what diffusion is all about. In CVV-HD, dialysate is perfused across the semi-permeable membrane and the solutes diffuse across the semi-permeable membrane as per their concentration gradient. The dialysate is perfused in the countercurrent direction. However, there is a very small amount of convection which also occurs because high ultrafiltration rates are used, not as high as CVVH, and they are certainly not as high as requiring IV fluids to be given externally. So the major advantages of CVVHD is that the small solutes are removed easily, and also there is no requirement of additional IV fluids to be given to the patients. Let us take a look now at CVVHDF, that is continuous veno-venous hemodiafiltration. This is a combination of both hemodialysis and CVVH. So let us look at what happens. Blood from the patient is removed via an access and passed through the filter and returned. Now here there is a dialysate which is perfused before the filter, and it is perfused in the direction which is counter current to the blood flow. This is the dialysis component. The second component is the pre-filter or the post-filter replacement fluids, and this results in an effluent which consists of the spent dialysate as well as the effluent or ultrafiltrate which was set during CVVHDF. CVVHDF combines both diffusion and convection for removal of the solute molecules. In convection, the larger molecules and the smaller molecules are removed until the particle size is almost equal to the pore size. And in diffusion, the smaller molecules are removed according to their concentration gradient from the blood to the dialysate. The smaller molecules move out faster than the larger molecules. So once again, let us understand that in CVVHDF, first of all, there is a dialysate which is passed in a direction counter current to the blood flow, and then there is also the element of ultrafiltration and replacement fluid, due to which there is large amount of negative fluid balance achieved in the patient. CVVHDF is preferred when there is a large amount of mixed molecules to be removed, that is smaller molecules as well as large sized molecules. Also, very critically ill patients which are hemodynamically unstable will fare better with a combination of hemodialysis and CVVH. In this study conducted by Troyanov et al., there is a comparison of the clearance rates of urea, which is a small molecule, and beta-2 microglobulin, which is a large molecule, using CVVH with pre-dilution and CVVHDF. As expected, urea being a small molecule, with hemodiafiltration there was more removal of urea. However, in beta-2 microglobulin, as expected or contrary to the expectations, in both cases CVVH with pre-dilution as well as CVVHDF, there was an equivalent amount of beta-2 microglobulin removal. So to sum up, each of the modalities is useful in its own way but has its own challenges. In CVVH, we require very high fluid requirements as replacement for the ultrafiltration which is set. In CVVHD, lower solute clearance is available as compared to CVVH. And in CVVHDF, there is a very precise control which is required, and hourly fluid balance maintenance is a very important component of monitoring CVVHDF. The choice of CRRT modality depends on patient characteristics, that is the indication for which CRRT has been started, the hemodynamic stability of the patient, the hemoglobin levels of the patient or the status of anemia, and so many other factors. Also, it depends on the solute which has to be cleared and the fluid balance which has to be achieved for particular patients. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and some of the concepts of CVVH, CVVHD and CVVHDF are now clear to you. So let's dive deeper into the remaining lessons. See you.
In this lesson, we will be focusing on the critical steps of connecting and disconnecting the circuit, specifically the process of priming and returning. The key components of the CRRT circuit consist of the blood tubing, the CRRT machine with hemofilter, replacement fluid and dialysate, effluent bag, and a vascular access catheter with red and blue lumens. The arterial line draws blood from the patient, while the venous line returns the treated blood back into the patient's bloodstream. Priming is the initial step in the connection process and involves filling the circuit with a priming solution, usually normal saline, to ensure that all air is removed from the system before blood flows through the lines. But for that, first we have to set up the RRT machine and all the necessary disposables and attach the tubing, filter, etc. to the machine. Remove the kit from the bag. A pre-assembled kit is easy to use because it can just easily be attached. In the Fresenius Multipro machine, it has to be just hung on the machine and the components will fall in place. First we attach the arterial and the venous ends, and then we attach the effluent lines, the drain lines, and the dialysate lines. To ensure that the tubing fits in perfectly into the pumps, hold the tubing in place and then press the start reset button, long press it. And when you long press it, the pump will roll and automatically the tubings will get fitted in. So one pump has been adjusted, and now the second effluent line is also being fitted in. Press the reset button and we can see that this tubing too has been set perfectly. Now similarly attach the venous tubing, the dialysate line, and keep the arterial line ready to be connected to the vascular catheter. Keep the venous line ready to be connected to the vascular catheter. Attach the tubings to the ports for measurement of various pressures. Choose the dialyzer according to the machine which is being used and the patient characteristics and profile. Attach the arterial and the venous ends to the blood compartment of the hemofilter and attach the effluent and the dialysate lines to the dialysate compartment of the filter. Attach this to the holder. A similar layout is present in other machines too. Although this video is of a normal dialysis machine, the principles remain the same of priming. That is, attach the tubings, the filter, start the machine in the priming mode, and then make sure that all air bubbles have been removed using normal saline. While disconnecting the patient, first disconnect the arterial line from the tubing and connect it to the saline line. Open the clamps and start the blood pump. Disconnect the venous line from the tubing after the blood has been returned. Flush the catheter lumen with normal saline so that no clots form. And close the catheter line with a heparin lock or a citrate lock.
I will repeat what I said, that this was the second lesson, and the third lesson will be on fluid management in CRRT. Fluid management is a tricky chapter, and we will require some calculations based on which fluid management will be successful. The course on CRRT in our app has 20 lessons, out of which we have just selected 4 lessons to discuss with you in these live streams. You can avail the other 16 lectures also by downloading the app and by taking advantage of the certificate also, which will be issued at the end of the course. So I wish all our technician friends here who've logged in, who are watching, our subscribers, a very happy Diwali, and a big thank you to all of you for making my dreams true, and that I can reach out to you. There's good news in the coming. In the month of November, we will probably have a webinar with some friends from Tanzania who are specialized in hemoperfusion technology, and hopefully it shall be a collaboration which will be successfully presented to you in the month of November. With this, we will stop today's session, and keep watching. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and do enjoy all the content that we have on our channel. Thank you.